What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you some new details on Dragon's Dogma 2 following a showcase from Capcom just yesterday from the time of this video, which included things like the release date as well as many new other details. Now, the biggest part of this announcement by far was the fact that the game is officially releasing on March 22nd of 2024, which means we don't have much longer to wait for it. It's also releasing on current-gen consoles, that is to say Xbox and PS5, as well as PC. It's certainly nice to finally have a date for this one, as it is definitely a game I'm personally looking forward to, though that obviously isn't all that we have to go over. There are quite a few other things that were announced here as well, or at least shown off, I should say, starting with a little bit on the story. Now, we had gotten some of these details before, but they did clarify a few things. First of all, while this is set in the same universe as Dragon's Dogma, it is set in a parallel world, which is why we're not seeing locations like Grancis from the first game, and instead we see a human kingdom known as Vermund and the Beastren kingdom of Batal. Now, what's more though, they did give us a few extra details about how some of these kingdoms feel about certain things and a little bit of the initial plot setup for the title. The Beast Kingdom of Batal is known to basically think pawns are bad luck, pawns being servants of the Arisen, and the Beastren kingdom seems to have a certain amount of distaste for them. Whereas the human kingdom of Vermund, it was confirmed, has a problem with a false Arisen trying to be placed upon the throne there. However, despite being a false Arisen, pawns are nonetheless serving the guy, which is giving him an air of legitimacy. Now, apparently that in particular is probably going to be quite important to the story, as they introduce a few characters, one of which is a mother trying to get her son installed on the throne by bringing about a false Arisen. Thus, your existence as a true Arisen and the protagonist of the game complicates things. And while they don't elaborate further, obviously a pretty big plot point. And it also explains a little bit of their previous details and announcements about how there were apparently two Arisen running around. One of them is apparently obviously not a real one. A few other cool things to go over though. Obviously we've got some great new gameplay. A lot of it was centered around taking down this giant enemy known as Talos, and they showcased a lot of ways you could approach that, such as simply jumping up and climbing it, using harpies to cover the distance, and just some of the cool animations the giant itself would get up to. Not long after that, however, they did also show off some new gameplay with the newly announced Trickster class, which is going to center around using a censer as a weapon, spreading all sorts of smoke around, and then acting as a bit of an illusionist to conjure either buffs for your party or more direct things like this smoke dragon they showed off, which is going to give more of an option for people who want to stay more on the back line of combat, which is an interesting approach for a game like this. From here, however, they did also show off a few other things in relation to gameplay, such as talking about the relationships you would build as you move through the world and perform quests and interact with various people, which I imagine has to do with the relationship system from the original game. But admittedly, this part of the showcase didn't actually explain much of how that's going to work, simply that it existed. They also showed off a tiny bit of the new character creation, which is going to be a mix of photogrammetry, that is to say, using realistic photos and then putting them into the game to make a more photorealistic look, which is going to give you all sorts of options to select a preset for your character and then customize that a little bit. And then it does look like there's also sliders available to us. We also know that we're going to be able to play as a Beastren character instead of just a human. And just like the previous game, you'll of course fully customize your main character as well as your main pawn. And speaking of pawns, they showed off some interesting stuff here as well. Pawns will apparently be able to learn a specialization of sorts, which is going to help you interact with the world, as some of them can do things like learn the language of a different people, such as elves, and then translate for you. And just like the previous game, the adventures they go on and the things they learn will then impact the people who summon them into their world. So it looks like they're expanding on what was already a really cool system from the first game, so I'm pretty excited about that. Now, I would say those are the big things to know. They did go into a little bit more depth on certain characters you'll be running into here and there, as well as showing off a few monster types and just some general gameplay footage, which honestly the whole game is looking pretty great to me. But with all of that information, you've pretty much got, I would say, the most important things that they showed off in this showcase, and from the sounds of it, here in just a couple months I'll be reviewing the title, which I know I am certainly looking forward to. So, hope you enjoyed the video, hope you found it informative. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. Let me know how you feel about all of this down in the comment section below. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.